the American Council for Technology Industry Advisory Council. That is ACT IAC for short, and my colleague Keisha Powell. This is a fantastic organization that maybe some of you have worked with before, interacted with, some of you maybe never. So we've got a placemat in front of you here that kind of walks through some of the things about this organization. But the bottom line up front is that it's a 40-year-old government and industry nonprofit association that works together to improve government through innovative technology, through best practices in finance and human capital, and so we've got a ton of really engaged members in government and industry. We have an executive committee made up of members in both government and industry that work together collaboratively, and then we've got a bunch of course, we have a bunch of events, things that are going on, and dialogue throughout the year. But we've got 8 communities of interest that are in particular I wanted to bring up to this group. And one of them is, given our topic today, evolving workforce community of interest. And each of these communities of interest meets virtually. So that is a great opportunity for anyone not in the Washington, D.C. area to be able to work with and collaborate with. And it's not just a membership group, they all come together and kind of meet someone. There's a great opportunity for networking, of course, and collaborate with your peers, but also it's actually doing some real work. So these POIs will come together, tackle some big hairy problem in government today, and then put together a task force and create actionable, like a white paper or some things that can actually be used. Are anyone familiar with the Federal Information Technology Reform Act, or FITARA? I think that's not familiar. So that is a legislation that was passed years ago to basically make sure that we know what we're spending IT dollars on and give authority to information officers to approve things. And so this one of our COIs actually put together a white paper that was used by Congress in helping to follow up to make sure that the act was being administered the right way. So Keisha Powell are the head of all events for the organization, and we have an annual conference. We have several, but our largest conference is in the fall. It's called the Executive Leadership Conference. What's it called now?
Imagination ELC.
Imagination ELC, and that's University of Pennsylvania. So those who are interested in traveling and coming to speak to this place on Earth, it's a great opportunity. It's a 3-day conference, and it is just fabulous. The dialogue, the conversation, the networking that happens there. There's a conference coming up just next month in May in Cambridge, Maryland, called the Emerging Technology and Innovation Conference. That is, again, a kind of 2.5-day, a much smaller, more intimate feeling, but it's really cool things. Organization. And so here today, and collaborating with amazing all-stars, is that we're working on a new goal to expand what we're doing outside the DC Beltway area. So this is the first year here at a pilot. This is the beginning today of a Beyond the Beltway series, okay? And the first conversation is around the future of Beltway work. And so before I introduce you to Larry, anything else, Keisha?
I was just going to say, you touched on the fact that our community of interest meetings and our federal insights exchange meetings are all virtual, so there's no impediment there. But also, all of our events, if there's anything that you're curious about, are available on demand, so you can join them virtually after the event. So we really would like for you all to connect with us in any way that you feel comfortable in. Everybody here who registered has been added to our daily newsletter. You can opt out if you don't want to get that. But it helps you see kind of what's going on. We don't spam you, we give you real information and let's get that. So
one of the Federal Insights Exchange is it's an individual conversation with an agency leader, and it goes to different agencies. And you get to learn about your peers and colleagues in government and what they're doing. And then on the topic today in federal work, professional development is really important. And one of the things that brought me to ACT IAC in 2005, they have a series of professional development programs for different levels of career, from earliest entry into the workforce all the way through senior executive in the equivalent industry. And they were like year-long programs that connect, an equal number of people in government with people in the industry in a very safe, non-salesy space, where we can have real conversations about important leadership issues and topics at hand. And it's one of the best experiences ever. And then the trusted collaborative network that comes out of that experience is really, really cool. So if you're interested yourself or you have team members that will benefit from professional development, take a look at some of these programs, Voyager's partners, associates.
We also just started a new program, which is a Women in Leadership program, it's specifically geared towards helping women network. And I'm so sorry, I might need my, because I talk very well. But to get, no, I'll yell for this. To gather women together to network and to learn about professional development opportunities, and they do classes and sessions. And that one also ends. Everything that we do has continuous learning points attached to it as well. So if you're looking at getting your credits for the things that you do for your job or even outside of your job, we also are able to give you continuous learning.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. And so thank you for being part of our initial inaugural Beyond the Beltway series. And now we're response. My marketing department will make you be upset I didn't say. So this event is sponsored by Adobe. I'm Jonathan Bennett. I'm with Adobe. I used to spend 10 years in Department of Agriculture and had trademark office before that. Public service is hard. I appreciate that you get up every day for the mission. Thank you very much. Adobe is a 40-year company that changed the world of digital experiences. And most people know us from our brands like PDF or maybe our Creative Cloud products like Photoshop or things like that. Most people don't know that we have an Experience Cloud that is helping to transform the way customer experience and employee experiences happen every day through better websites, analytics, communication, omni-channel communication strategies, et cetera. So I have just, I had a great career in federal government, and I think I have a great job now where I get to work on a sales with federal agencies, understand what they're trying to do, communicate ways to help solve that, and then work with our customers to document their best practices. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to have a conversation, continue this conversation, let me know. We're happy to share details. And without further ado, thank you for your patience. Larry Heisel is the head of the Federal Executive Board of Kansas City, and he's our esteemed moderator today. Larry Heisel.
Appreciate it. And thank you so much for choosing Kansas City to be here. We're happy to host, and I think we are kind of innovation here. So we're glad that you're appreciative for that. Before we get started, we have some esteemed guests today. We're going to let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do in our community and their regional footprint. But before we get that, we're going to learn who's in the region for their benefit. So if you could just give your name and the agency you're with. So, Sherry.
Sure. Leslie Margaret with GSA.
Good morning, my name is Kristen Smith. I'm with Homeland Security, Citizenship and Immigration Services here in Kansas City.
Good morning, I'm Pat McCarthy. I'm also with Citizenship and Immigration Services here in Kansas City.
Good morning, I'm Erica Brooks. I'm with the Department of Army Flight Arms Center in Portland.
Morning, I'm Brian Realty. I'm with the Farm Protection back here in Kansas City.
I'm Coach Burdick. I'm also with the Farm Production and Conservation, which is part of USDA.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Lucas. I'm with USDA at Factor in Kansas City.
Good morning, everybody. Chad Johnson, Head of Tax Strategies. I'm the Director for Federal Civilian Programs.
Jack Walser from JDA. Adam Cherry with JDA. Eli Caldo from JDA. Brenda Landry, also JDA.
Will Miller, JDA is well represented today.
This is USDA. I'm with the FX Business Center as well here in Kansas City.
Dave Comar with the EDA with Executive Development Technology Company.
Carrie Shearer with the Kansas City National Security Campus managed by Honeywell LLC.
I'm Regina Heiss. I'm with the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration.
Josh Payton, Housing and Urban Development, Kansas City Regional Office.
I'm Sanjay Sankura. I'm representing Capgemini Government Solutions. I'm a Senior Manager and Capability Lead for the Digital Assurance practice over there.
Michael Collison with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, Pride KC.
June Berry, same.
Bill McGowan with General Service Administration here in Kansas City.
Brian Richwell, United States Secret Service here in Kansas City.
Morning, Dave Borensky with General Services Administration in Kansas City.
I'm Shelley Gill, also with GSA.
I'm Charlie Cook, also with GSA.
I think would be Jane.
Yeah, and if we had one more for GSA, I'm being flexible. Thank you all for being here. And now our esteemed guest will start with Joe. We can introduce yourself.
We're just still on the Joe. Yes, Joe. So, Joe Palmer, the regional director for HHS for Region 7, was just recently came back to Region 7 because I was actually active regional director of Region 5 and Region 7 director, which compromised 10 states. The 4 states in Region 7 are comprised of Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. I work for President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and of course, our Secretary Javier Sarah. I would not bore you with all that we do, but I will say to you that HHS touches more Americans than any other federal agency. We have a lot of operating departments. One that I think you probably are most familiar with is the CDC, because of course we went through COVID, which I'm sure we'll discuss today, and because of COVID, most people want to work remote. So I'll be very interested in having this discussion and hearing everyone's thoughts, because that's what people care about now. Can I work remote? And how often can I work remote? And so COVID has really changed the landscape. Glad that you came here to our region, Region 7. This is the best region in the United States. There are. So I can tell you that we're the heartland of the United States, and we have phenomenal federal employees in Region 7, and we all work together. We're working together more, and I stand strong on that we are the best. And thank you, Mr. Heinzel, for inviting me.
God, we're back to follow. Welcome to the Heartland, Joe. So I don't know if anyone told you, but you're in the OEM testing room. So after the break, we're going to hand out the test. Ever remember taking, how many of you guys took that? So it was in this room back in 1988. I took the test. I think I passed. But I agree. My name is Mary Rooney. I'm the acting regional administrator for Region 6, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, we call it. And my real job is regional commissioner for the Federal Acquisition Service in the GSA. So we've got our GSA team here. So glad that you guys are here today with us. Just our regional footprint in Kansas City has decreased dramatically. We're down to like 200,000 square feet, and we used to be up around close to a lot more, double that. We've given up about 1 million square feet, as you know, when we moved GSA from the Bannister complex downtown. But overall, we manage federal space and leasing for the rest of the federal government. So we have about 10 million square feet of federal space, 13 million square feet of lease space. And it used to be the reverse. Our federal space was way more than the lease space. So we've got to turn on that. And that basically for the last 10 years, even pre-COVID now, that's the new timeline, right? Pre-COVID, post-COVID. And so pre-COVID, really about 10 years ago, GSA started space consolidations nationwide. And we have gone, I think, for our own occupancy, about 4 million square feet down to 2 million square feet. And we're continuing to reduce that square footage. One little tidbit I heard about a week ago was that long term, agencies are planning on reducing about 20 to 40%. And so we're all kind of in this learning and working together to figure out what does that mean. And
So what happens in space that we keep and making it a good work environment for not only our employees, but customers that come visit and work with our environment. So that.
Thanks, Mary. I'm Jason Marvin. I'm with the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. You are currently seated in the big toe of our regional footprint. This is our office. Thank you for visiting today. And just a quick thanks to ACT. I've participated in many of the Beltway sessions and conferences, and it's a fantastic organization, but it's been an organization that's been geographically constrained to Beltway. And I really appreciate you all coming out specifically to the park. Now I know exactly why we had a political appointee on the panel. But I do believe this reflects facts, not a issue. I'm sorry, but no, it's okay. I do believe this reflects the reality that with the evolution of the workforce and the way we get work done and where we get work done, those centers of influence are moving closer to the point of sale, the point of interaction, where the first line work gets done. And the reality is, a lot of that gets done out in the field. Always has been true. Those of us who've been in the field know that. But now the lines of communication, the lines of delivery have been streamlined to the point where folks inside the DMV are recognizing that it's super important to catch the folks out in the 816. So, back when we did have regions at OPM, I was the service center director, so that was Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. We operate on a business line. So I have a nationwide footprint of consultants, and we'll talk a little bit about how we've done work in the past and how we can work in the future. But at the end of the day, it's OPM's mission to be the federal government's human capital practice and policy leader. And this is an exciting time if you're in OPM, because there can be no more important thing than the care for and management of our humans in our employees. So this is exciting. Look forward to this discussion. I think you'll hear all kinds of fun stuff. And Mary's my landlord. And I'm a proud tenant. Everyone could be. I don't know.
Hello, excuse me, I'm the CEO of the Technical Services Firm. That's our president. And we do human capital tech and services, so like and all that sort of top of the house development. We might design corporate universities, things like that. And then we sort of that there. So actually, Jason and invited me to put that on another panel. So we're in the street, they're phasing out and taking things like that. So we started collaborating. But we've been rolling out tech. We're doing that right now, and we've been in transformation. Actually, I feel like we're coming out of the cocoon. But we have been building tech, and we want to move from doing this work at the house to equipping organizations to create cultures that last. And that is a real-time human culture, and what to do about it. So that's what we did.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. So, our format today is we do have a series of questions that we're going to ask our panelists. And ask each to give a brief answer. And then this is interactive, so we certainly would like you to follow up with any questions you might have. This is being filmed, so try to keep it PG. So, the questions. But anyway, we'll get started. Bonnie, we'll start with you since you have the microphone. How do your employees perform their jobs within the region? And how did they work prior to the pandemic? And how they work during the pandemic? And how they work out? And what do you think it looks like in the future?
Well, first of all, we have been 100% virtual since 2008, and that was necessity back in 2008. And we just found that because we do all of our work on site, we didn't need it, and so we never did go back. So when COVID came, we already knew how to. We didn't have to adjust all of our customers. Of course, we had to start delivering remotely instead of on site. But other than that,
that sort of stay the same. We are global. We work, like I said, we've been in business for 40 years. We work all over the world. We're primarily US.
Please. Yeah, so I'm glad you started with volume because we'll just kind of, there'll be a spectrum here. So in my part of OPM, how we contribute to the mission is we provide direct delivery products and services to agencies. So consultative services, staffing services, workforce planning, succession planning, recommendations, the policies that I have colleagues here. We can talk about that. Okay. But we have also gone where our customers require us to go. And so in the mid-2000s, we began realigning ourselves, resources from a very regionally based structure. We had all the work for our federal clients in Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, to a national service footprint. At one point, I had a OPM office west of Chicago, and then we moved to business. And so since 2010, we have been 100% teleworking with a significant percentage of our supervisory and non-supervisory working full-time remote. Literally in 2010, 1/3 of my managers and supervisors worked from their homes. So when COVID came, it was, for those of you who are coming to the Kansas City office, things like that, best take an extra notebook in your power board because we're going to be gone for a while. So from a service delivery standpoint, it was simply an extension of what we were used to doing because we went to where our clients were delivered. That's not saying there weren't significant learnings, significant difficulties, because we were also used to being able to get together for those moments that matter, things like that. And during that period of time, we made do with the tools we had. Now, I would say that period of time was instrumental in requiring us to deliver the tools that our employees needed to collaborate. And without it, I'm not sure we would be where we are today, which is a nationwide network completely supported by vision and collaboration tools, even down to file storage and storing things like that. But we're able to now operate through the rest of the agency where we were able to operate region back in 2010. That's completely virtually. So where we are now, there's a very small percentage of our employees now that regularly inhabit this space and our other 7 spaces across the country, including DC. And in the future, we anticipate more of this. And we'll talk about why that is here in the next couple of questions. But we are far more virtual, remote, and telework friendly than we were pre-COVID in COVID.
So just one little factoid on one of my GSA partners. Back in the 90s, this building had every day about 6,000. Down in the first floor, giant
close. It's close. Yeah.
So that was just the traffic. It looks like its own little city.
The vendor pulled out.
Everybody came. It was, I mean, if you were single all the time, you would. Yeah. It was amazing. So today, what's today like? So the registered population is about 25 to 3,000. That's half. But guess how many people actually come Tuesday, Thursday? And guess it's 500.
350. 700.
700, Jonathan in the winter. 700 people Tuesday through Thursday. That's at the height. So Monday through Friday, it's probably down to 350. Yeah. Anyway, so that just gives you an idea the dramatic drop. So you had the banking crisis, then we had COVID, and now we have post-COVID. And I think we're all just trying to learn what is that going to look like. And so Short term, I think it's just how do we deal with people that are coming back? We have a handful of people that actually want to come every single day. They just don't. They don't. That's just it. And then you have pockets of people that have to come in and say that, like we manage government fleet vehicles, so we have license plates and car titles, so that all has to be locked out. They have to. That's another small group of people. Everyone else, except for there's half of GSA runs buildings, federal buildings and courthouses and houses. So they've got the office or into a location most of the time every day, unless they're doing purely administrative work. The rest of us are all remote. Some parts of GSA have decided totally remote. Federal acquisition service. There's nothing that pulls them. So GSA has gone through this kind of categorization. Work that you do will be done totally remote, or the work that you do must be totally on site, or it's flexible. So there's those categories. So where does that leave us, like with the office space? So right now, our regional office is, and we're kind of in the process of short-term and giving up our space. And even pre-COVID, so pre-COVID, about 30% GSA telework. But it depended on what part you rent. So federal acquisition service, they were basically teleworking all the time, at least 4 days a week. Public building service, not so much. They were probably teleworking 1 day. So naturally for GSA, went from pre-COVID 30% telework now to 80%. It's like, okay, you got to give up some space. You can't just keep having all this space. So just going through that process of now doing day off. I know others determine how often is it. And then when people come in, what types of space are they going into? Are they sitting at an open office desk? Are they going into a small company? Or what we have found, our large conferences, they're always booked. I don't know who's booking them, but you cannot get it. People in DC, when they come to have a meeting, like, sorry, it's booked in May and June. So that gives me, that's an indication that it's not just one or two people coming. We've got larger groups of people coming in and collaborating. We just had a group of division folks that came in for some team building. And I mean, the collaboration is really important. People are kind of get to see each other, reconnect, and work with each other for a day or two.
On-site, you on-site. Right, not an on-site, now the new on-site.
Correct, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so maybe we'll have to take some of our spaces, give up individual desks and create more of the larger meeting spaces. People never really got used to having a meeting in a large open office. Felt weird just standing around this desk or somebody working. So really do still areas. And then with the technology. So we used to have telepresence rooms where it looked like when you were meeting someone in DC and Texas and California, we're all in the same room. We just talked about that the other day. Does anyone use telepresence anymore? You don't have to, because everyone now has a camera built into their computer and or your phone, and you can get on Zoom or meetings instantly. Doesn't matter. You can just do your own phone background. And so that's kind of a snapshot.
I don't know if there's anything left to say. You covered everything. I'll just say that pre-pandemic, as you said, everyone coming to the office every day, and now most people are hybrid. But you have to look at the realities of that. So, for example, most employees will come in 2 days a week, come in 3 days a week. And so even with that, though, let's say that your days are, I don't know, let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but there's a meeting on Monday that you need to be here for, and there is another meeting on Friday. You may end up being here every day. I can tell you also that many employees in HHS, we have to be on the ground. We really never stop working. Because you got to remember, we were on the front lines of COVID in many ways, and we're still dealing with the impact of COVID. Mental health, if you look, we've seen increases in suicide, especially in youth. You see what's happening in the news, and COVID affected a lot of people, mental health. We have shortages, nursing shortages, doctor shortages, dentist shortages, workforce shortages. You really have to get out there and you have to visit hospitals and visit health centers and visit different places. So it's almost easier a lot of times to come to the federal building, work from there and do things. And then when you're setting up at home and you have the two screens here and nice camera here and you're trying to set up that same situation. And then, depending on what you have going on at home and kids and other, things you have to factor in, dog, whatever, so it's kind of, it's all over the place. But the most important thing I can tell you is that we will have to look at the motive if we're going to attract younger people. Younger people do not want to come into the office. They do not want to do, in many cases, they do not want to do what their parents and grandparents did. They want to be free. They want to enjoy the air. They want to just enjoy their life. They look at being in the office contained as like a caged animal. And I've heard it before, and you're just trapped. And they just don't want that. These are free spirits. I feel like we're going back to the 60s. When, what was the big event, the musical event, Woodstock? Yeah. So, I feel like we're going back to Woodstock, and when you look at that and look at the laws things where recreational marijuana, and you put all that together, the younger people in many cases are free spirits. Although, it's, what can you say? So I would say to you, in the future, we're going to depend a lot on technology. I pulled out my phone. I can do a Zoom from here. I can put a little case on the table and do a Zoom here, like you said, pop a background on, and it's fun. I can feel like I'm at the beach, and really, I'm wherever. So it's changed a lot. Not having a cafeteria, because I'm in this building, it's rough because that's virtual now. You actually now we go into a little cafe thing and it gives you a little snack and screen, it shoots it, whatever, and you don't even get a receipt. So things are changing. And I think either we better get with the change or we're going to have a big shortage of workforce. I did some statistics, and most of HHS employees are 40 and older. Okay? So that means we better start attracting younger people. So I guess that's all I really have to say on that.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, all right, I'll try to be really loud. So we know the technologies, right? We know the capabilities, right? That and but we also, as federal employees, come against a political reality, right? Of leadership, of legislators, right, who expect buildings to be filled, people to be in the workplace so that there's assurances that they're working, right? So to me, the technology, we've solved that, right? I uncovered when COVID started my first telework manual, which was dated 2003. I'm teleworking some capacities. Great. But the reality of how many days has changed. So I just would like to hear some thoughts on where the process, the technology meets the political realities at. How do we move through that? And can we?
You did so. Yeah. Well, being a political appointee, you gotta be real careful. I'll say to you that you basically try to do your best to provide service. I think what you will find, and I'm a former elected official, so I think what you find is that if certain people that are elected need help or get calls from their constituents, and they feel as though they didn't get the proper service because maybe no one being in the office or something of that nature, that, you know, they will get upset, and if you get enough together, they may introduce a bill, or they may say, we want this or that to happen. But I don't know that that's a reality as much as it may be just a talking point because of something that was in the newspaper or whatever. Because I'm going to tell you right now, before I came to federal government, I had one perspective of what I call a federal government, and that the workers, once I got to federal government, I said, Jesus Christ, we work hard. I mean, we work hard all the time. There's always a problem going on. And you got to look at, when you're federal government, the buck stops with you, really. So you have to deal with state government, you have to deal with local government, you have to deal with community-based organizations, you have to deal with faith-based organizations, you have to deal with the Congress people, the U.S. senators, the state senators, the state reps, the mayors, the commissioners. You have to deal with everyone, and they're all coming at you all the time with all kinds of issues. And every day you're reading, you're trying to keep yourself abreast of content. We always have content matters, and you better, if you're a federal employee, you better be working with other federal departments and have relationships, because there is no way possible you will know the answer to every question that comes at you. And that, so I would say to what you're saying, I invite anyone that has a perception of that this remote work or whatever means we're not working as hard, to come visit and spend a day and see the life of a federal employee. And I'll tell you again, Regis 7 is the best Regis in the United States. Right now, we're working with HHS. We're working with FDIC. There's a lady named Teresa Green that is looking at how do we work with USA Jobs and help people fill those jobs. David Marshall with the Social Security Administration, working with him, working with the IRS. They have a lot of openings, and they're doing on-the-spot hiring, and people are trying to move towards that because people don't want to come back. You know, when people get out, they come to a fair, they want things to move fast, they want to get hired fast, and they're not used to a slow pace of federal government bringing them on board. So, you know, we're working with FEMA, we're working with, I could talk to you about Andrea Spillers, we're working with HUD, Ulysses D. Claiborne, we're working with EPA, Matt McAllister. We're all trying to look at how do our federal agencies intersect. USDA, we work with USDA. And so we're trying to give the best service we can to the citizens. We know we work for the people. We know we have to be responsive to the people. But I can pretty much guarantee you that every federal employee they're earning every dime that they're being paid all the time. So I gotta speak with that, you know?
We're gonna hire you to be the spokesman when you go to the testifying.
I would like to offer a little bit of perspective on the before COVID, after COVID, telework, remote work thing. So, if we are part of the MPAC, we are part of the MPAC mission area, which is the largest mission area within USDA. And we're on the IT side, and I'm overseeing the IT budget, which is close to $1 billion annually. And before COVID, the leadership mentality was you needed to be in the office. If you're working at home, you're not working. That whole concept. And when it started, they totally embraced remote work. And our productivity has increased tremendously. And we started with the key things. You needed to be on screen. You needed to be there and showing your face. But that did more than just proving you were there and where you were supposed to be. It was keeping the communications, the feedback, the understanding the conversation. And we actually found that our meetings, I run all the investment money approved with 4 different agencies. And we have 3 to 4 meetings with each agency every month. And we went from teleconference meeting rooms, paper shuffling, not understanding what people were saying. Somebody put me on mute while they had a side conversation. And the whole thing was controversial at times, to the team meetings where everybody's on screen. You can see, you can't conference with somebody else. You have to have your own opinion and your own thoughts. And we're way more productive. We make way more decisions. Everybody's happier. And we just get along with that. And if the dog barks, if the kid runs by, it's okay. Before you were pretty less. Oh, and now if I go on screen, I'll open turn on you, somebody else saw whatever. It's okay. And I think it started at the top, and the leadership actually embraced and letting us do it. And our area is pretty much fully remote. There's I know in the teams of people that actually want to go to the office. And it's because of, I've got kids at home, my spouse doesn't work, they're running around, I can't concentrate type things, whatever. But even those that went and found out I'm here by myself, that really didn't help me any. I just need to find a better place to work at home. And it just, I think it really changed everything. We get lots, when we put postings out for jobs, 800, 900 people, that it's impossible to manage, but it's where they want to work. They want to come work for us. And our pool of talent that we have to choose from is huge now because it's all across the U.S. It doesn't have to be right around the local area.
Thank you.
Let me go back to that political.
Okay.
So, Bill and I spent most of our career building a commercial business district. Downtown, GSA did that, and I think we're probably still doing it. But because a priority to put federal agencies in commercial business district, we were rebuilding what happened in the 70s. And so now, as agencies, private sector started getting out of, releasing their space, a lot of that, I don't think we've felt the momentum in Kansas City, Heartland. We've been feeling it in Seattle, San Francisco, some major metropolitan areas. You've got that piece that's going to come. That's going to start hitting more. You already have an act that's been called the Show Up Act. And so GSA has been gathering information and spoken the stats. But it's about forms like show that engagement levels at GSA, maybe pre-COVID, 10 years ago, were around 75%. Right now, they're at 83%. We're behind HHS. HHS is the number 2 agency as far as employee engagement. GSA is 4. I think it's more about It's not what it is. It's because the mission. It's not about specific work. It's the mission that their agency and HHS and all the work that HHS has done getting the all of us through COVID. That's the mission, right? So, and GSA is correct up from 10 to 4, and our mission is about. So, yeah. So I think those are political factors, and that it's the real estate footprint, right? Then also to say that as agencies say, hey, look, we are successful, whether we're in the office or not. It's all about performance metrics, and if you can demonstrate how your metrics have, not only I think, but the case you're going to see in most agencies in this private sector too, they didn't drop, they didn't stay steady, they actually increased. And your productivity, and then your employee engagement too. For GSA, our latest survey, employee engagement just went down like almost 1%. And we felt that's okay, because we're kind of going through this, transition of like what's going to happen next.
So I'd like to actually draw, hopefully, two of these comments and questions together, because if you look back at presenting major problems to the federal government as an aggregation of organizations of people, we are historically excellent and fast and proficient, and use all the other words, at identifying an existential crisis and responding with the correct technical response rapidly. And that's what we saw with our technology, with many of our processes, even with our vaccine approvals, all of these things. The federal government is historically very, very good at finding the rightest answer technically and deploying that. And if I were my colleague Bonnie, it would start and end there. Success, a little bit more money, things like that. Where we have a problem is no matter how right we get it technically, that will be insufficient to serve the American people, to address the political, big P, small p, considerations, the cultural implications, the economic implications of the cities we serve. All of these things are tied into the evolution of the federal government's activity response. Good start, everybody. We fixed all the technical issues associated with a distributed workforce. We have lots of data, and we will have more data that supports an intentionally hybrid workforce, remote work, mobile work, on site, right? You don't go to an office, but you go to places because you need to. And it's all going to be data driven, data shown, and it will all be the top considerations are mission and mission. What's the mission? How do we best accomplish that mission? Accomplish the mission. We've heard great examples of the federal government responding rapidly and implementing the best technical solutions to meet the mission, period, and the paragraph. But we all recognize that is not enough. It's insufficient because in the federal government, we have a unique position where we have a lot of bosses, i.e. every single human in the United States of America, right? And I don't know if you've seen us in America lately, but we have some differing opinions over everything. Yeah. Oh, a lot of things. And so it is incumbent on us to continue to provide data, to continue to provide that unbiased, objective look at, are we beating mission the same, worse, or better? And here's the data that shows that. And do you remember the base realignment and closure process? The technical answer was, we need to get rid of a bunch of space. Sound familiar? The technical answer is, the cultural, emotional, historical, political, big P, small p implications of that decision are massive. Not in my district, not in my neighborhood, anything like that. So what did we do in the past? Eventually, we got to a relatively objective, nonpartisan, commission-based evaluation system, whereby we could look at all of the rest of those very important, very real factors to get us to a series of solutions that included repurposing federal space in many metropolitan areas. Go to Presidio, something super cool they've done that. Go to the Valley, go to places like that. But it took a long time. There was a lot of angst in that UT, and there was a lot of perceptual swings here and there as we listened to and argued among ourselves. But what would be the best set of solutions to address all of those other very real considerations? We're at the beginning of this organizational change in this giant organization we call it. And I think it's important to recognize that. We have the technical solutions. We have the data now to show technically what's correct. We have a lot more stuff to deal with to get to the next phase of testing.
Well, I actually just want to clarify, is it that with politics, is there saying that, you're going to have to come back to work, like, what was when you're talking about the political issue, what is the issue? That politics, or we should go back to work, is that?
It's back to office. I prefer to use that term, back to office, because we were all working. We were all working, and many of us were working longer than and harder than we had ever worked before. So it's returning to the office. And I think what Jason and Mary said is really important about, it's not just about us, right? You're in a city. There are restaurants, there are gas stations, whatever it is, there's an infrastructure around a city. It's why a place like Washington, D.C. has been clamoring for people to come back to work, because the infrastructure that supports people going into the office is dwindling and suffering. And there's a job loss calculus that's happening. So it's not the technology, it's not, at some point it isn't about mission delivery, but it's the impact on our locations and the people around us. And so I like what Jason said, that we're just at the beginning. And anyone who thinks we're on the other side of it is not. It's crazy, but that's the distinction.
I get it. So that's exactly what we're seeing in the industry as well. That we are seeing these corporations, whether it's Rand and Santa Monica, whoever it happens to be, like any I see here in the Kid City area, everyone is dealing with this issue. And I think there's been some really good points by some of the industry leaders to say we can't change too fast because of the infrastructure. If we just go cold turkey, we're going to bankrupt. So we really have to think through and be willing to do a phased approach. So I think what you're saying is exactly right. Yes, we all love working from home. It's so much easier, at least 90%. But we have to think about all the impacts that be good citizens.
Beverly, I think you.
They pretty much answered all my questions, actually, but I was concerned too about the economic impact of federal employees moving out of the urban locations like Kansas City. We hear a lot of discussion about downtown DC, about the footprint that we vacated, and the economic impacts of that. But is anybody looking at the benefits of the economic benefits that have been gained by employees who are now working from home? I basically have bought stock in my Starbucks since I home. So I think there's a trade-off, and I understand the concerns because you see it. You're walking downtown, you don't see people out, patronizing the restaurants and visiting, the different places. But there seems to also be an economic boom that's happening too in the suburbs or wherever we live, where money is being spent there and helping to boost those economies. So,
great point. Thank you.
We don't mind that's
Our panelists indulge for a bit. With the future of federal work in mind, what can industry partners in your region do to support with respect to either optimizing the way work is done or other topics that may be top of mind?
So there's the political piece of this, but then there's also the human nature. So people have said, like, when we're getting feedback from our employees, and what's important and what's top of mind. And if you're 30 years old, working at home, or in the office alone, or with a few people, I think, you're probably wondering about what they told us is that it's not so much about, I can do the office. It's really about flexibility, but also is a sense of belonging, a sense that you're valued as an organization, to the organization, by your first line supervisor, your second line supervisor, and that you have a chance for advancement. So how do we, the big challenge, I think, the kids, the tech kids that are literally living in mom and dad's house, basement. And so how do you get that balance of kids, people, let's just say, that are working at home full time, and those who are coming into the office, building that culture, that sense of belonging with those teams that you get with face-to-face interaction, that we know who you are. That, oh my God, I haven't seen you in such a long time, but I know who you are. I know that you've got 3 kids. I probably wouldn't get that over the screen as much. But so there's a political piece, and then it's just human nature. Important. How do we get people come into the office, or how do you get that collaboration outside the office?
So you're really saying that they should consider HHS.
I would say, the package is number 2 for
Yeah. Went to our industry partners, preface with a short story. So, I have an industry partner, who works primarily from the office. They're a major employer here in Kansas City, and then during COVID, they work primarily remotely, and now they still work primarily remotely, but there are now very new requirements to come back into the office X number of days. Negotiable, right? Went a little bit too fast, you know. So you know what they do? They send one designated tribute day to everybody's badges. Where do you and they patch it in, and they leave. They drive around and they send everybody's badges down. Because they don't check the security cameras, because they already check. And they don't have to back out. I believe that story to illustrate this point. Regardless of what we want, what we believe, what we hold dear, or what we have nostalgia for, the world's going to do what the world does. People are smart. People will figure out how to best meet their own needs. We can either listen to those needs and adapt to them, or choose to fight them. So industry, all I would ask is that you continue to dialogue with us on the real. What are our employees doing in real life to meet their needs? How can we learn from each other so that we can better listen to the real, so that we can better understand how to best meet those needs where possible, incorporate and accommodate those cultural, organizational, political, emotional, historical realities, and get to what's next. Because we don't know what's next, but our people are telling us with how they behave, sometimes honorably, sometimes in spite of our restrictions and things like that. They're going to do what they're going to do. They figure out together. We have to keep this transparent dialogue. That's why I appreciate this particular panel and these kinds of things. I think that this is an opportunity to have space.
So 2 things came to mind. One, there's a great book called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And, it's a sales book. It's like, for example, let's say I'm trying to get your business and I find out that your cousin owns a firm like mine. Right? I'm like, well, hey, if I were you, I'd do business with my cousin. And is there any
reason you wouldn't do business with your cousin? Like, why are we gonna have this conversation if we're not gonna have a real conversation? I keep that in my head until when you said that, like, well, let's get real. Good question to ask. And that would be the back of everybody, that's a shadow. Not following the rules, so we need to know what the shadow processes are. And then just a funny story. So in the industry, we heard about, people being tethered to their computer. And so it's being measured by how much their mouse is. And so they put their mouse on their Roomba.
People will figure this out. Meeting the mission, as long as you're meeting the mission of your company, I'm meeting the mission of our agency and our workforce. And as long as we can prove it and speak candidly about that, objectively about that, these things will work out. But it's going to be a lot of funny stories going on.
I have one more. I know the teacher is a tech speaker, and he said he got tired of sitting on the conference calls and where he wasn't talking. So he filmed himself like leaning forward, leaning back.
Water, it's all break for out of time. There's a lot of discussion left on this subject, and we'd love to have an opportunity to maybe join us at a future date and perhaps discuss a little bit more. But if we can't have a round of applause for. And I will invite Jonathan to do some closing remarks.
Thank you, Larry, for that. Special thanks, really. Thank you for panelists today. You guys did a great job. Not only brought some real conversation and dialogue, but, just candid and humor. Thank you. Each of you for bringing your A game today. Thank you, each of you, for participating and engaging in dialogue with us. We'd like to have more. This is hopefully the start to many good conversations. I think hilarious that this could be a record. I've never, ever been to an hour-long thing where we only got one question, right? And I'm gonna get one more. Don't worry. But I think we really got 1.5 in. That's pretty awesome. That kind of dialogue happens from one. But in all sincerity, to continue the conversation, I invite each and every one of you to an informal gathering this evening at the Yard House in Power Line District at 5 o'clock. I think most of our panelists are going to join us. We can continue the dialogue and have some questions and just in an informal manner and have a cold beverage of your choice. All right, so join us at the Power Line District for informal happy hour at 5 o'clock. Thank you. Yeah.